Batman Urban Legends is the brand new anthology series that brings together some of your favorite comic book writers to tell more Gotham tales. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into issue 1 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so leading the pack, first up we have a Chip Zdarsky story featuring Red Hood. We see Jason tracking down a drug dealer throughout the alleys of Gotham. Jason manages to stop the guy by using rubber bullets. As he puts it, it's his little concession to work in Gotham City again. And not to dig up years worth of old comic form debates, but seriously, if he's gonna kill people, I don't think he should wear the bat symbol, but that's just me. We find out that Jason was after this drug dealer as he's trying to get to the bottom of a brand new super substance taking the city by storm, something called cheer drops. Basically, you pop one of them bad boys and you're in a euphoric haze wherein your greatest dreams ever so briefly come true. The only problem is the high is so big and all-encompassing, people are walking into traffic and getting killed. This story is also juxtaposed with some rather interesting flashbacks to Jason's early days in the Batcave, like the night he accidentally stumbled upon Batman's gun stash. Yes, the Dark Knight hates guns, but he still needs to be a master of everything and needs them for forensic purposes. Batman actually ends up working this same cheer drop case, but from the other angle when he stops a man from jumping off a roof thinking he was on a roller coaster. Using the Bat computer and his own knowledge of chemistry, Bruce is able to riddle out that these cheer drops are made from much the same material as Scarecrow's fear poison, only instead of making you see horrible fears, it makes you see the opposite. You're also probably thinking, wow, Crane is a busy guy, he's helping out Simon Saint and the Magistrate in the main Batman book, and he's distributing drugs here and now? Well, the comic actually has a nice in-canon answer for that, with Barbara as Oracle saying that Crane had gone off the map. She had assumed that he maybe perished in the A-Day fire at Arkham Asylum, but we know that's not true if you read the other books. Red Hood continues to chase the cheer drop up the ladder. He beat up a dealer and now he's looking for a supplier. Only as Jason goes to investigate a tenement building, he ends up finding the wife of the guy he's after OD'd on cheer drop. Obviously, a situation like this ends up striking a major chord with Jason as he lost his own mother to a drug overdose, a piece of New 52 continuity that is still very much in place right now. Jason desperately wants to bring this guy to justice, but at the same time he wants to try and protect his kid, knowing that if he calls the cops now, he's gonna get lost in the foster system. I gotta admit, Jason being nice to this kid and going out of his way to try and help him is probably the best part of this story. Eventually, both Red Hood and Batman are tipped off to the same place, a warehouse wherein the cheer drop is actually being made. Oh wait, cheer drop, teardrop, okay geez, I finally got it. Jason wrecks up the operation and hopes that Andy, this kid's dad, is just a henchman and not the one actually running things. When Jason does actually manage to corner the guy in a scene very reminiscent of how the story itself started, he's shocked to find out that this dude actually doesn't care about his wife or son's well-being at all. In fact, he actively admits to testing his own drugs on his son. This naturally pushes Jason over the edge and causes him to unload a gun into this guy. Well then, so much for turning over a new leaf and not trying to kill people, am I right? That is, of course, unless Jason himself ended up getting affected by the cheer drop and this is just what he wanted. I don't know for sure, but we'll have to find out in the next issue. Now, the next couple stories in the collection are substantially shorter. We got a nice little focus piece on Harley Quinn, who is attempting to turn over a new leaf in Gotham City in the main Batman book. She decides to go and visit an old hideout that her and Poison Ivy had used back in the day when they were pulling crimes together, and Harley reminisces about how good Ivy made her feel even when she felt bad about everything else. I personally really get to enjoy seeing the original Harley Quinn costume again, even if it is just in a flashback. The other thing that has everyone talking about this story is the first real in-canon kiss between Harley and Ivy. Yes, not the cartoon, not an Elseworld story, the actual real canon. So this is actually pretty huge. They've danced around it for years, but they finally just came out and said it, and it feels good. This story ends with Harley actually getting one of Ivy's plants and promising to take care of it until Ivy returns again, whenever that's gonna be. Next up, we actually got a little outsider-centric story. It would seem that Katana has broken her sword, which is pretty bad considering that her frickin' husband is inside of that. Furthermore, we see that Black Lightning and everyone else is actually working with Metamorpho again, meaning this version of the Outsiders is getting a lot closer to the original version of the Outsiders. Now, the last story in this collection is actually one of the longest ones, so long in fact I'm pretty certain this was supposed to actually be a standalone book at one point. It focuses on Grifter, that Team 7 Wildstorm character the DC tries to elevate every couple years, and I guess this is one of those years. We get a flashback to his early days in a mission that went horribly wrong when it seemed that Team 6 did battle against Mr. Freeze. Keep that in mind because it'll actually be important later. In the present, we see that Cole is still very much acting as the bodyguard for Lucius Fox, the new richest man in Gotham and head of Wayne Enterprises. Though he is admittedly pretty damn bad at his job, and you have to wonder why Lucius thought to hire this guy in the first place. In fact, Grifter even mentions that he's not even the best at what he does. You could have hired Deathstroke or Deadshot. Also, while Grifter is working for Lucius, it's made abundantly clear that he has his own side projects going on, as we see that he goes to the bad guy bar in town to have a meeting with Penguin, and oh wait, is that Mrs. Freeze? Someone remember that character existed. Batman also really doesn't like the idea of Grifter operating in a city, and as such follows him so the two can have a rematch from the main Batman book, which also ends in a bit of a no contest. I will admit though, it is kind of funny that Cole gets out of the fight with Batman by saying that he knows his real identity. He doesn't, by the way, he's totally bluffing, but we see him steal an access card from Wayne Enterprises the next day, leading us to believe that maybe he is gonna actually try and unravel who Batman is. The plot thickens though as Batman and Nightwing are called to a murder scene. Who died? Well, Mrs. Freeze, of course, and because Grifter was one of the last people who saw her alive, he's now suspect number 1. And so that was Batman Urban Legends issue number 1, everybody, and it was a bit of a mixed bag. I enjoyed the Red Hood story that led things off. It's probably the strongest one in the collection, but at the same time, it feels below what Chip Zdarsky can do and what we've seen him do. The Harley Quinn one is brief and cute and actually promises some rather interesting developments that we're either going to see over in the brand new Harley book or when Ivy comes back as Queen Ivy to be a villain again. Outsider's book is cool too. I'm interested to see what Brandon Thompson can bring over to the Milestone Hardware book, but still I feel like there's so many things working against the Outsiders, but it's good to see it's still around. Likewise with Grifter, I'm sure there's fans of Wildcats and Wildstorm who are happy to see the character stick around, but even when you put one of my favorite writers like Matthew Rosenberg on it, I just cannot seem to get myself to care. Also, who else thinks it's weird that Grifter's whole deal is that he could see Damonite aliens, but now he just kinda doesn't have that power anymore, or it's just not useful in the DC universe, meaning he's half the character he used to be? Overall, I'd give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely want to see how the Red Hood story shakes out, but I'm not exactly going to be in any rush to see how the rest of them end.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink, wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.